Creating content is one of my biggest passions, right alongside acting and music. I put a lot of time and effort into making high-quality videos and podcast episodes for you all. If you'd like to support my work, you can send anything via Cash App at $Douglas Folk Jr. Your support helps me continue making my videos the best they can be. Every bit of support keeps the creative fire burning. It truly makes a difference.
I wanna hear your thoughts. I wanna hear your sound. And mama always told me to shout and speak my mind out loud. Come on and talk when you got the time. Freedom, want you on the line. We wanna hear from you. You got it going. Let your voice shine. Platform yours is not just mine. We wanna hear from you. You got it going. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. You're gonna shine. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. You're gonna shine.
The song you just heard was Talk to Me, the Freedom Savage podcast theme song. You can listen to the full version of this song wherever you listen to music. Don't forget to check out 741 Quarantine Studio Remix featuring Quay and Douglas's new mixtape, Freedom Savage, the Mixtape. The links to all songs will be under this video in the description below.
The following information you are about to hear will describe gruesome acts of violence. Viewer discretion is advised. We are in our first segment, Freedom of Speech. I wanted to say that I miss you guys so much. Obviously, it's been a long time since you saw me or Tati, even though you're actually not even seeing us right now. We decided to approach this episode in a more intimate and different style. Y'all are still gonna get all of the tea, even if y'all can't see us. And we'll be back to like regular programming in future episodes. Like, don't worry, this is not how we're gonna do it. As you guys already know from episode 5, I have been experimenting more with how I can like do the podcast, starting to come to the belief that it doesn't have to be necessarily in one form. I will keep it traditionally like how I do it for consistency, but I do like having these little moments where I can try new things. On this episode, we will be focusing on domestic violence, also known as DV. Before we get started, Tati, the girlies haven't seen you for a hot ass minute. Introduce yourself for the people that don't know you or are seeing you for the first time. My girl got into her content bad.
My Instagram handle is I am Tati with 4 eyes _ pronouns she, her. I also do have a YouTube, which I kind of have not posted on in a little while, but hopefully with this summer coming up, I do plan on posting more. It's just, life be lifing. So yeah, you can really follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm at like all the time. And YouTube. My YouTube is a joined YouTube, me and my boyfriend, my family. I do have kids. It's called Need a Check.
As I always say when we dive into anything related to crime on this podcast, trigger warning. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. This whole episode is a trigger warning. Everything is DV related. If this is not a topic that you can comfortably, hear discussions about, catch me on the next episode. This is a very heavy topic. There are a lot of people that are still currently, as we speak, in DV situations, and my heart goes out to everybody who has been through or is currently undergoing a domestic violence relationship. Yeah, trigger warning. Definitely trigger warning before we start anything. I guess we can get into Gabby Petito's case. Her case is going to be the heart of this discussion. I really noticed the pull that the episode where we discussed the Menendez brothers got. We actually touched upon DV a little bit when we discussed the Menendez brothers case and everything that happened to them in relation to how their case was carried out in court. We discussed the defense that they were bringing to court originally during the first trial, unaliving your abuser even if they haven't done anything directly to you in the moment where you unalive them.
Yeah.
Law and Order also did episodes where women have unalived their abusive partners and they had to be put on trial for unaliving them because in the moment their partners were said to not have threatened their lives, and they didn't come at them with a weapon or was about to hit them in that moment that they unalived them. They would have been asleep or in the next room. It has to do with a psychological thing where those women were put through abuse for so long that your mind kind of just tells you, you can't take this anymore and I need to get my power back.
Battered woman syndrome, is that what it's called?
Yeah, battered woman syndrome. You're right.
I mean, it also goes for when women who are being abused leave when, the abuser is at work or he's not home or he's away. It's just like you're doing these things when they're not aware or they're not conscious or whether, sleeping or not physically there because you fear for your life if they were.
Yeah.
When it comes to physical abuse, it doesn't start out physical, it starts out mental. And that's more on the psychological part. It's like, I mean, and physical as well, because you fear that you might not live or you might, whatever you fear in that moment, you just feel like you can't do what you have to do while they're physically upright in front of you.
We touched upon that in the Menendez Brothers episode. We kind of showed how that same psychological concept could be applied in any type of abusive scenario.
Yeah. A victim and an abuser, whether it's parents, whether it's friendships, whether it's relationships, it happens.
Gabby Petito's story holds so many truths about domestic violence that I think deserve more attention. So in this episode, we're going to unpack those patterns, and I hope it helps listeners understand the complexity of abuse and why so many survivors go unheard for so long. I first heard about Gabby Petito's case when my mom saw it on the news. She was heartbroken. Like, she kept saying how sad it was and how she really felt bad for Gabby. I had came into the room when they were breaking down the police video footage that we're going to get into a little later when we break down her case. But my mom could not get over how innocent she was and just how visibly hurt and distressed she was. This girl was really like a sweetheart, like a textbook genuine sweetheart. And my mom just felt really, really sorry for her at the time. But I didn't fully understand at that moment what had happened or thought to look into it any further. But thanks to Tati, I recently got the chance to dive deeper into the case. She introduced me to a true crime docuseries on Netflix called Gabby Petito, An American Murder Mystery, and we highly recommend watching it. A lot of what we'll be discussing today comes straight from that docuseries. Fair warning, there will be spoilers ahead. If you want to check it out first, feel free to pause this episode, watch the 3 parts, and come back. It's a quick watch, but a powerful one. Once you've seen it, or if you're already familiar with the case, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, not just about Gabby's story, but any true crime case we cover, whether it's a part of our freedom of speech deep dives or savage court breakdowns. Without further ado, we can get into the case.
First, we're going to get into who was Gabby Petito, and then we're going to get into who was Brian. They're the couple that we're talking about. We're going to get into when they moved to Florida, her best friend, which was Rose. These are just names that we're going to go over. Gabby, Brian, Rose. We're going to go over their engagement and then the beginning of their road trip. So it was like a dream of Gabby's getting into life on the road. And if you look on YouTube and TikTok, there's a lot of different people and couples that document their lives on the road, living in a van, like the van life. Then basically we're just going to go over the timeline of everything, how they met, when she met her best friend, Rose, literally breaking it down from beginning to end for you guys.
I mean, without further ado, let's start. We're going to get into her early life and family. This actually shocked me when I saw it in the documentary. She was born a day after you.
Literally, same year and everything.
She was born on March 19th, 1999 in Long Island, New York. Her parents split when she was 6 months, but they were able to co-parent amicably. They had a healthy dynamic and relationship.
Basically 2 sets of parents. She was able to, be with her mom and stepdad and also be able to be with her dad and stepmom. They were very close.
She was described as full of life, even as a baby, and you could really see it in the videos they share. She was a really cute baby. She loved drawing as a child and later became interested in art during high school. Her family had a tradition of documenting life with homemade tapes, which were ongoing from when she was a baby. And I think I told you this when we had briefly discussed the case before. It was almost like it was inevitable for her to end up vlogging because her family they were already doing it.
Yeah, from when she was a baby. She has so many home videos.
Yeah, her family made it a really big habit to document life that way.
Even before she was born, I think they also had home videos of her mom being pregnant. Yeah, it's like she just wanted to keep that.
My mom always kind of wished she did more of that because we only have pictures and stuff like that, but we don't have no.
Yeah. I don't think my mom has any pictures of her being pregnant with me. I've only seen 1 picture of her pregnant. No, 2 actually, with both of my brothers.
I only have 1 picture of my mom pregnant with me because my mom got married before having me. So their wedding photo, she was pregnant with me and she was showing.
I just had a bunch of baby pictures.
I'm grateful for, but I remember my mom specifically telling me I wish we would have picked up a video camera, recorded you singing or something.
Right?
I have, but like 2010s up, they're not like 2003 or like like 2004, no shit like that. I think that it was really beautiful that her family was just able to document her life in that way. Now let's move into Brian Bumass. Brian and Gabby met in high school where he seemed older than his peers and socialized with Gabby's friend group. They did say that he looked older for his age. He was the same age as them, but he looked way older.
Yeah, he looked way older
Um,
for his age.
he
I
looked,
honestly think that's because his parents had him when they were older.
you think so?
Yeah, you don't hear that saying of like when older people have kids, the kids come out looking old.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard no shit like that before.
Yeah, like they have like a look. Not all the time. Not all the time. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Brian claimed he fell in love with Gabby when he saw her at a deli. And she kind of recalled this moment the same, like it was like a love at first sight kind of thing. Gabby, like initially, she kept the relationship private. Brian was socially awkward. Anytime any adults, like her parents or friends, would meet him, everyone would kind of say the same thing. Even his friend group, everyone would kind of say the same thing. Like, he's not a bad person, but he's like socially awkward, kind of weird, but respectful still.
To me, it was kind of like he was already a person you wouldn't want to be around for like longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, like you wouldn't really be around him solely alone. You'd probably meet him like a friend through a friend type of thing. Like he wasn't someone that you just would like could be really like click with and cool with because he was just awkward. So when Gabby told her parents she was moving to Florida with Brian, they felt like it was really fast and Brian might have influenced her decision because when her family describes her, it was like she was really family oriented. Up in and moving away just didn't seem like her. But she was also technically an adult at the time, so it's not much they can, you don't want to completely lash out at your kid and then they not speak to you. They supported her, but they were obviously worried.
They were skeptical. They were very skeptical,
Hmm.
which rightfully so. And speaking of Florida, we are going to dive into their life in Florida. So they moved to Florida and they live with Brian's parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. Keep his parents in mind because they are going to come back up later. Initially, Brian's mom had a good rapport with Gabby, but things soured when Gabby felt ignored by Brian's mom, leading to tension between them. I don't know what it was, but like the mom just started to like switch up on her immediately after she was there
I
for.
feel like they like coddled their son, and when they seen that he actually had a relationship, she just didn't like it 'cause she didn't feel important or like the only woman in his life anymore. The weird stuff like that. You know those moms that's just weird about their sons. I feel like it was like that.
He's finally like living his own life. Like you kind of have to let him go in a sense.
And she can't control anything anymore.
At the same time, given how sweet Gabby is, how do you look at a person like that and be like, she's
And
problematic?
be mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's problematic as I don't like her energy. Like she did not give that.
They call it emotional incest. This weird thing with that moms have with their sons where it's like, oh, if they have a wife or a girlfriend, oh, in their head, that girl took the son away from her. I don't even know how to explain it.
You explained it really well actually just now because I couldn't even find the words. Like the fact that you be knowing, like get into my bitch right here because
It's
she's
and it's also like he's the youngest, he's the baby. I think she's the only boy as well. So she
yeah.
definitely developed that emotional incest.
She was really distant and mean to Gabby. It made Gabby really uncomfortable. There was actually a moment where
Gabby's mom had got a letter, I believe, stating that Gabby changed her address to Brian's parents' address, to the Florida address.
which she didn't initiate, and it led to suspicion that Brian's mom might have had something to do with it. We just established what we believe that the mom had with her child. If she didn't want Gabby there, why would you change the address to Florida?
But that's the mental part about it, because when it comes to mothers like that, since they can't control their son, they're going to try to control the situation. She's here already. It's nothing I could do about that. She's going to be like a type of mom to her as well, and also like try to manipulate her to be able to manipulate her son.
I'm gonna have to work with the cards I dealt and still try to have some form of control over like my son's life.
Exactly.
One thing that was able to pull Gabby through was just the fact that she was so sweet and so patient, even with people that really didn't deserve it.
She tried to like make the best of it.
She did try to make the best of like the life in Florida. Speaking of just doing things to like build her life, she hops on Bumble and she meets a friend through Bumble named Rose.
So at this point, Gabby is living in Florida. She's having like a weird relationship as far as Brian's parent, well, Brian's mom specifically. So at this point, she feels really like isolated. She doesn't have any friends. Her family is so far away. So she created an account on Bumble to find like friends close by, which is where she met Rose in 2020. They had a really good friendship. They always hung out, like they've known each other for years. Rose described Gabby as like a light in her life during a difficult time because Rose was also going through a difficult time in her life. So as the closer they became, Rose noticed that Brian seemed off and gave off like dark energy, especially when he was with Gabby.
I think the first time she met Brian, it was at the beach. Her and Gabby were like the main ones playing around, having a good time. And Brian kind of like sat feet away from them, just watching them. But she said that the vibe was so weird. It was kind of like how like a parent would like watch kids as they're playing, like on a play date. He didn't really engage at.
Yeah, he wasn't interacting. It wasn't like three friends hanging out. It was just him off to the side. That's weird. Like
That's weird as
she will also say the same things that people back all the way in Long Island would say, awkward. But Rose was like the first person to witness them as far as their relationship. So she seen how like he was manipulative, like how he would mistreat her. And she would witness him like try to make up for mistreating her with a bunch of gifts, which is, you know, the typical cycle of an abuser. There was one incident where Gabby was late to hang out with Rose because her and Rose had planned to hang out one night. She was late because Brian stole her wallet because he didn't want her to go out. So she had gotten into this whole argument with him and everything. Eventually confided into Rose about that. So Rose had witnessed all of these like abusive tactics that Brian had over her. I don't know what much she could have done besides talk to Gabby. I believe she was also in a not so great relationship herself either. So it was really more so of them kind of like trauma bonding and trying to just, you know, like confide in each other and have good time with each other, you know, distract themselves from their relationships. So I don't feel like it was much she could have done besides being there for her, being the outlet. I feel like she was there for her in that way.
Rose is not even the first person that she would confide in. It also goes to show how there was this battle in Gabby, whether or not to listen to that part of herself that was like, I don't like this. But then it was like that part will always get trumped by the part of her that was like, no, like I love him. Like this is just what it is. And I think it's something that a lot of people undergo when they're in a DV situation or a
Yeah,
toxic.
because you think things will change eventually, or you think, oh, it's not going to be like this all the time. You don't think that it's going to get worse.
He full on proposed to her in July of 2020. He claimed that it was fate because a firefly landed on her ring finger. However, there was no ring, which was odd as hell to the family, who found out through Facebook, by the way. The mom found out about the engagement through Facebook. Gabby seemed excited despite the lack of a formal proposal. The fact that the mom even had to find out through Facebook also goes to show this form of isolation we start to see. Not that you're necessarily obligated to, but like given the dynamic that we were told that she had with her family, you would think that's news she would want to immediately break to them, like call my mom, like, oh my god, mama got married. Or could it be that she already knew that they were skeptical? Or was it that she kind of had mixed feelings about the engagement, even though she did say yes?
They weren't the type to really shun her, try to manipulate her and anything like that. They were really supportive of her, but I feel like they would have told the truth. Like, do you think this is a good idea? Do you like what is going on? How are things with you guys? How is things with the family? It's like, it would be too much of a reality check for her. And I don't feel like she wanted that. She wanted to believe that things would change. And until it got better is when she would start confiding into her mother or whatever.
This was around the time that they planned to downsize their life into a van and travel around and create a YouTube channel to document their journey. And this was when Gabby was finally going to get her shot at doing content. And she really funded this. Like, this was really her dream. The documentary said that she worked overtime at Taco Bell, often working 50-hour weeks. But around this time, it was like Brian wasn't doing shit.
He wasn't working at all. He got upset at her for working at Taco Bell specifically because he said it was embarrassing that she was working and he wasn't.
He also felt the way that she was like really living her life around this time. She would still talk to Rose and she would even like bring Rose with her on like some of the deliveries. This was around the time where he would just start texting her all types of crap, like weeping and moping.
Instead of just going to get a job and working towards the goal, you're like manipulating her.
And the documentary shares this. She sends messages to Brian asking him to like stop controlling her and to treat her better. He would write her a bunch of crazy shit. I thought that he had said something about unaliving himself. I don't think he did, but like the messages did indicate, okay,
It would
like
imply it. His whole goal ultimately was just to make her feel guilty about him being sad.
she would even notice how dramatic he would be, and she used to tell him, like, stop it, like, chill.
He would imply these crazy things, and then she would feel sad, and she would feel like, I gotta go, and she would eventually apologize to him.
The road trip begins officially in June 2021.
So at this point, Gabby worked towards the goal. She bought a van, registered to her and everything. Before starting their van life, Gabby stopped at her parents in Long Island to kind of catch up and to say her goodbyes. Before leaving, her mom gave her $200 for gas and emergencies. Gabby like hugged her so tight. The mom was kind of like, she liked the hug, but it kind of left her a little worried.
Yeah, didn't
And
she like cry? She literally cried
yes.
like they hugged.
I feel like it's really because of the buildup of emotions for the past year and that she basically hasn't spoken to her mom about anything in the past year. It wasn't a conversation, but she was just able to kind of release that.
She herself was starting to feel how isolated from her family she was. But she was passionate about blogging. It was clear,
Yeah.
just like many content creators. And when the documentary shared that, I literally was like, girl, that was me during my first few videos. Like, it was just her just trying to make it work. She was like trying to do like a slate, like a little intro, and then it kept like,
Yeah, she had bought everything too, and not just the van. She had bought the camera, the drone, like for the views that they're seeing and everything. She literally funded everything because this was what she wanted to do.
and Rose even said this as well. She felt like Brian didn't
Want to do it.
he didn't want their dysfunctional relationship to be caught on tape. He didn't want that the shit he was doing to her to be caught on
And he
tape.
also didn't want her to like, he didn't like to really see her being happy from something other than him.
But they officially started their van life journey on July 2nd, though there were already signs of tensions between them. As seen in the vlogs, Gabby was nervous and unsure about the process. There were small arguments between them, and Gabby expressed in the footage how she felt like her problems were her own fault, showing a dynamic where she was just trying to justify Brian's behavior. The timeline starts now.
So they started July 2nd, 2021. Fast forward a month, August 12th.
About a month and change.
They were in, I don't know how to pronounce this, Moab?
I said it Moab too. I was like, Moab? A mob? Or Moab? I don't know.
Moab? I'm just gonna say Moab. I think they were saying Moab. So they were in Moab, Utah. So the police got a 911 call in from a witness, and this witness told the dispatcher that they witnessed a man slapping a woman.
And they were of Brian and Gabby's descriptions.
They described the van and I think the license plate number. They were following the van. They couldn't pull them over because there was nothing to really, they didn't know if anything was for sure or anything like that. So they were trying to basically find a reason to stop them. So eventually they pulled Gabby and Brian over because Brian hit a curb. So they stopped them and they asked them about, so we got a call, a 911 call. Someone said they witnessed a domestic dispute. They seen that Gabby had bruises on her face. She's visibly distressed. She's crying. So Gabby admitted to them fighting, which explained her bruises. And when they spoke to Brian, he claimed Gabby had a moment of being upset. He locked the car and walked away. She hit him with her phone. As far as the body cam footage, when he's talking to the police, keep in mind he's like really calm. He's laughing with them. He's joking with them. He's like, basically blaming her. And Gabby, she's crying. She's anxious. She's like, I have anxiety. However, despite that, the officers believe Brian.
Textbook gaslighting. It reminded me of like an old friend of mine. He had anger issues, and the bullies in our class, one of them, she would like whisper, because she used to sit behind us, and she would whisper crap in like his ear. The moment he starts going off and going crazy, to everybody, he looks like the weirdo. He looks like the one that's like off his chain, but they didn't see the nitpicking and the shit that led to
antagonizing.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. But I honestly don't see how the cops really looked at it as, oh, she started it, whatever, because first of all, she has bruises. Even though she admitted to hitting him first, that's also kind of her personality chiming in of trying to like save face as far as him because she doesn't want him to get in trouble.
First of all, how many DV situations, especially recently, have we seen the first instinct will be to protect the abuser?
Many, many, many. It's kind of textbook. She doesn't want him to get arrested. So she's like just going to take the blame for it. Had to sit her down. Like she wanted to call her mom. Like she was like literally in distress. You want to kind of protect them. You don't want them to get in trouble. Escalate the situation into more of what it has to be because at the end of the day, y'all going to see each other again. It's like, you want to protect them. Literally what she did. So with that being said, they didn't want to arrest the both of them on the body footage between the two cops discussing like what they wanted to do. So he was saying, I don't want to arrest them, but I also don't want to let them go. And then it's to be a situation where somebody gets unalived. He said that on body cam. So their solution that they felt was just, the greatest possible thing to do was to put Brian in a hotel specifically for DV victims.
He went to a hotel for DV survivors. Him.
Yes. And told Gabby to go to like a city market to cool off, shower, and, decompress. And eventually they reconvened later on.
They still went about their trip. August 22nd, Gabby's ex gets a call from her. She reaches out to her ex-boyfriend and they talk for hours. She hinted at having concerns about her relationship with Brian and mentions an altercation with him. And she expressed a desire to leave but felt unsure about how to proceed. The ex basically said what I feel like anybody in his predicament could have said, like, I'm here for you, whenever you want to talk, like whatever move you want to make, you already know you can give me a call.
I wish she called her parents or her mom, but I just felt like at this point she probably felt a little embarrassed or a little ashamed, which happens a lot with DV victims as well. But I kind of wish she did, because at the end of the day, her parents are so supportive. Even if she felt those things, they would not have made her feel that way. You know what I'm saying? They would have booked the flight right then and there, come home, or meet her halfway, or whatever the case. Like, that's literally what they did. But as a victim and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that is highly how she felt.
She's actually able to post her first YouTube video. They went out to eat. It was on her Snapchat. They had found, like, they had went to a restaurant and stuff from looking at her Snapchat. And they had allegedly gotten into an argument and they had left the restaurant.
So around 2 p.m. that day, Gabby and Brian was seen in Whole Foods in Jackson, Wyoming on security footage. When they arrived to Whole Foods, they parked the van. The footage shows Brian getting out of the car and he slammed the door, like aggressive. So clearly there was an argument. They went into Whole Foods. They didn't buy anything. They kind of walked around and then they left Whole Foods. That was the last known footage of Gabby being seen.
Gabby's mom reached out to her, but she responded back with a text saying that she convinced Brian to camp in the woods so she can have the van to herself. Gabby seemed fine and mentioned that she could make more money as a solo female van lifer. However, the next day, on August 28th, Brian is seen hitchhiking by a resident by the name of Norma Jean Jelovic. I hope I'm saying her name right. She drove him to a campsite near Spread Creek, where Gabby was supposed to be working on the vlog. She said that he had a strong body odor. He seemed to have been walking for like a while, and he was acting really strange during the ride, even denied wanting to be seen getting a ride. And instead of having her drive him to the exact location where him and Gabby had set up, he insisted that Jean stop right at the entrance instead of actually driving him to the part where him and Gabby were. And just like we said to keep his parents in mind, keep this woman in mind as well, because she also does come back up eventually.
August 30th, Gabby sends a strained text to her mother saying, "Can you call Stan? I keep getting his voicemail." And her mom finds that unusual because she usually refers to her grandfather as grandpa. Her mom begins to worry since she can't reach her daughter after multiple attempts. And then Gabby's phone goes silent after this. And this is very unusual because even though they're on the road and everything, Gabby always made it her, like, she's going to call her mom whenever she could.
September 1st to September 10th. Gabby's mom nor her dad heard from her. I feel like almost 2 weeks at that point.
Like a week and a half.
They reach out to Brian's parents, but they don't get any clear answers. I think they blocked her.
They blocked
she tried to send her like a text, and like after a while, like it just didn't go. Like
they stopped going through.
They also tried contacting his sister, but there was like no cooperation whatsoever. Gabby's mom then decides to post on social media asking where Gabby was. Gabby's friends start to spread the word. On September 11th, that was when they officially filed a missing persons report on her. And the police from Long Island got in touch with the police in Florida to go to Brian's family home. To a very big surprise at that moment, his parents were completely uncooperative with law enforcement. They refused to speak to the police. Like, they were kind of like standing in like their doorway, and then it was like an outside door. Once you go in the outside door, it was like a space and then their actual house door. So they were in the doorway doorway of their actual house door.
They didn't even come all the way like outside. They probably got like a minute or two conversation out of them before they said for the police to just contact their lawyer. And the police were very confused, like, lawyer, like, what do you mean? They asked if Brian was here. They said yes. The cops said, can we speak to him? The parents said no. Very weird.
Very weird.
Very weird. When the police went to Brian's parents' house,
They were questioning the parents and then they realized, wait, this is the van.
the van was in the driveway.
And the van was registered to Gabby.
Yeah.
That's when the police was like, okay, something's up here.
I think they towed it back to, did they tow it back to Long Island or?
They did take it. They definitely did take it, and they didn't see anything. But around this time, body cam footage from the police incident that happened in Utah, like in the beginning of their road trip, this had went viral because at this point she made national news.
Yeah, it was protests in front of the house every single day, asking, where's Gabby? Where's Gabby? They were protesting in front of Brian's sister's house as well.
Speaking of the sister, her name is Gabby Laundrie. She confirmed that Brian did join the family for a camping trip on September 6th to September 7th. So he had came back to Florida on his own, and they had camped at Fort DeSoto Park in Pinellas County, Florida. Sorry if I'm saying any of that wrong. Cassie stated that she didn't see Brian after his return from the trip with Gabby, and she had said that she didn't know anything and to ask like the news and shit to like leave her.
Everybody leave her alone. So it's like from September 1st to the 10th, her parents are worried. They're not hearing from her. No texts, no calls, no nothing. And you mean to tell me in September 6th, he was out camping with his family, so he was home. So all of this time, they're worried and concerned and contacting you guys, and you're just ignoring them.
Answers are needed. Like, what if this was y'all kid?
Exactly.
Around September 13th, a search begins in Wyoming around the Spread Creek campground where Gabby was last known to be. The Teton County Sheriff and FBI are involved at this point. Volunteers and law enforcement continue searching the area. But then on September 17th, Brian goes missing. His parents reported him missing, claiming that they haven't seen him for days. And it was revealed that he had been hiding out in a nature reserve. At this point, though, he's not a suspect yet.
Even though there was a lot of like, suspicion.
That will eventually come to change because on September 19th, Gabby's body was found. She was discovered in the Spread Creek campground area near where their van was found.
So what the police did was, I think they posted, and it was a news thing where they asked all van lifers. They said, if you were in Spread Creek area from this date to this date, we would kindly ask you to just, go over your footage. Even if you don't think it's anything there, go over your footage. If you see anything, please, hand us in the footage and everything like that so we can get like a last known spot for where they were. And so this van lifer couple, they went through their footage. They're like, oh, we were in Spread Creek around this time. Let me, go through our footage. They actually had on their own footage, they captured Gabby's van. So they were like recording themselves driving. And on that video, it was Gabby's van right there.
Yeah, it was like off to the side, like by a tree.
Yeah, so it wasn't in the middle of the road or anything, but it was like parked off to the side.
I also want to note that searching this campground was hell. It was very extensive and it was very complicated given how big the area was.
Her body was near where that van was, so it was helpful of that couple to hand in that video.
Her body was discovered, if I'm not mistaken, like about a mile from where the car was.
Yeah.
The autopsy report had stated that she was either, I guess, like hit in the head or like hit over the head with something and then like strangled. Manual strangulation, so like somebody actually taking their bare hands.
Their hands.
The body was confirmed to be Gabby by her family. This part of the documentary really made me emotional because like I think the stepfather
had to ID her body. And it was sad to see his reaction as well. He was like really torn that he had to even break this news to her mom.
I didn't even tell you this. Like I got choked up watching that shit.
Yeah.
Like, that shit. When they established the time of death, it was believed that she had died on the evening of August 27th. So the last day where there was no footage of her, said to have been unalived between that evening and the early morning of that next day. Sometime after 8:30 p.m. that day was when
they went through her laptop and cell phone and stuff, and they basically depicted on like when she stopped using it after editing any vlogs or whatever.
At this time, best believe Brian is the full-on person of interest.
He's missing.
But he's missing. A federal arrest warrant for Brian is now issued. They found that he was using her bank card.
He had Zelled himself himself $700. And then I think he also sent a text. Is that when he sent the text about Stan?
Yes, he was the one that wrote that text message to Gabby's mother about her grandpa. Along with selling himself the $700, he wrote in the message of the Zelle transfer, "Goodbye, Brian. I'll never ask you for anything again," to make it appear as if Gabby had wrote it like she had dumped him, basically.
Which is also because I don't think we went over previously. She had texted her mom about when she wanted to do the van life solo. She told her mom that I think Brian told her to pay him, like pay me and then I'll leave. I think she actually said that to her mom, which is why he put that little message in the Zelle to kind of corroborate, like, oh, so she just paid him and left on her own. He was
She
able to have her phone, so he saw that text message. So he's like, oh, let me put that message. So it looks like she paid
told
me
him to
and she
kick
left on her
rocks.
own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around the time the cops are searching for him, they're starting to put more dots together with the evidence. Remember how we told you guys to keep the resident Norma Jean Jelovec in mind? The reason why was because basically the cops were able to retrace his entire steps around the time that Gabby was unalived. They concluded that Brian basically kind of went in like a circle. Brian started walking up north from the area where he had unalived Gabby. As he went up north, he came across a TikToker. I think her name was Miranda Baker. Her and her boyfriend drove him off, started going like back down towards the direction of the park. That was when he came across Norma Jean Jelovec, and then she drove him the rest of the way. From September 29th to October 20th, the cops searched for him.
So they found his mother's car and they told her about it. I think did it get a ticket or something?
They had found a car. It was actually parked at the entrance of the
Mm-hmm.
park, if I'm not mistaken, and there was a ticket on it. And the mom actually went and got the car after a ticket was issued for it.
So then that's when they started searching that park because they're like, okay, he's here. The car is here, so he has to be around here somewhere.
The search was at Mayakahachi Creek Environmental Park. The search was also extensive and difficult given the acres of land at the park and the wildlife.
It was a flood at that park. Like I think the water levels were like really, really higher than usual.
He's found on October 20th.
Police were trying to find him for a few weeks. When they finally opened the park saying, okay, it's safe now, the water and the weather damages is not as extensive anymore. So they opened the park back up to the public. His parents went in to find him. I don't remember which of them found him exactly, but they found him instantly. That was crazy to me. I'm like, the freaking police were trying to find him for weeks. How did you guys find him in minutes? So his cause of death was ruled as a suicide by and his body was fully decomposed. So he probably did it when he first got there. Post, finding Brian's body, authorities recovered a dry bag containing his notebook. And in the notebook, Brian admitted to unaliving Gabby Petito. And he wrote, and I quote, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful," end quote. He claimed that Gabby had sustained a head injury and was in severe pain, leading him to believe that ending her life was a merciful act.
However,
However, her autopsy report determined that Gabby died from blunt force trauma to her head and manual strangulation, indicating it was a violent and intentional act. It wasn't anything where she fell, bumped her head, and like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. Can you kill me?
what the so he was still lying, basically.
Right, like what a confession. Way to give her parents any type of closure. Like that's so evil. Yeah, Brian expressed guilt and shame, framing her death as a tragedy and himself as remorseful when his actions tell another story.
And this is where the parents are now going to come into this situation because a cell phone record showed multiple calls to Brian's parents on August 29th, the same day he was seen hitchhiking and acting strangely. It was later discovered that he called them.
So we don't know what the phone call consisted of. The first phone call, it was like an hour long.
Assume that he was like confessing to what he had done. Mm-hmm. And his parents wired $25,000 to a lawyer almost immediately. Gabby's father was like, that's crazy.
I mean, we don't know what this phone calls consisted of, but obviously he was confessing and he told them everything. And it's like, as a human being, as a parent, it's just like, how do you know what happened? And then when this girl's parents is trying to contact you, asking about their daughter, you block them. It's just like, I don't know. It's just very evil. At this point is when, I believe it was after he passed, though, is when they were able to search his home. When they searched his home, they found a note from Brian's mother, a handwritten letter, and it was titled Burn After Reading. In the note, she spilling her love as a mother and the emotional incest I was talking about, and she offered to help him bury a body and made disturbing suggestions of unconditional support. Basically, on a thing like, I'll bury the body, I'll hand me the shovel, like weird stuff like that. This discovery fueled more public outrage and speculation whether Brian's parents were actively covering for him, which they obviously were.
So, like, cause what the fuck?
When I first watched the series on Netflix, when they were explaining about like how she was with Gabby or whatever, like as far as Brian's mother, I already was like, emotional incest. But this part right here about the written letter she made him, that tied the knot for me. I was like, yeah, emotional incest. If she can go hunch on her son, she would.
Yeah, for real. Gabby's family created a foundation in her honor, advocating for victims of domestic violence and raising awareness about the signs of abuse. Her story became a symbol of domestic violence awareness, inspiring people to leave abusive relationships. Gabby's mom, basically her entire family, had decided to go to where she was found a year after everything had happened. I don't know how they could have done that.
They are very strong for that.
Very strong for that. They could feel her presence and her spirit once they got to where she was found. Gabby's siblings and friends were spreading her ashes around the area, and the mother's family photo, they said that the photo had like a orb in the middle, and they could tell it was like Gabby, showing that she was like there with them, which I found was beautiful, but oh my God, so heartbreaking. I could not. Like, that shit really like did me in, girl. Devastated after watching this documentary. But the media spotlight grew. Gabby's van life video became more popular. It reached millions of views after her death, from 500 to 7 million views, I believe. Brian Laundrie's bum-ass parents were never criminally charged in relation to Gabby's death, though they were criticized for their behavior and lack of cooperation with the authorities. I think Gabby's family did file a wrongful death lawsuit against his parents in 2022, and they did reach a settlement in 2024. Their family continued to advocate for stronger domestic violence laws, including bills requiring police to ask specific questions and to assess the danger in abusive relationships.
After I watched it on Netflix, I actually went to go watch the YouTube video, and I was looking at the comments, and I seen comments from when...
Oh, you actually watched her video?
Yeah, I did. It was cute. And so I was looking at the comments, and I've seen the comments from like beginning to end. From the beginning, there were so many people that were like basically predicting that this is going to be a Netflix series, like basically predicting that she was unalived before they even found her body. It was people bashing Brian's parents and everything. Like, I literally seen those comments all the way up until her body was found, all the way up until now. It was crazy. It was like people predicted everything from the beginning.
Brian was trying so hard. This was so strategic about every move he made.
The whole reason for him making that circle was to basically he was hiking, and he had an alibi, and like he was hiking, and when he came back, she was gone, type thing. Like, yeah. He thought it out, but he didn't.
Like, the Freedom Savage podcast will be right back after these messages.
Quaygold's Beauty is a luxury business that sells essential beauty products such as lashes, lip glosses, matte lip gloss, lip scrubs, body scrubs, candles, and jewelry. Don't even let me hold you back. Go ahead and DM at QuayGoldsBeauty_ to get your hand on the products that you need.
Way back in the day, I was all up over you in school. Had me always singing your song, and you had a...
Check out freedomsavageent.net to hear more.
And love doing me wrong, and I closed up my...
Did somebody call for the Don Dada? For all my New Yorkers out there that need their hair did, my girl Lily does weaves, braids, locks, ponytails, and natural hairstyles. You don't even need to leave the comforts of wherever you at. She'll come straight to you. DM Lily on Instagram at dream.styles1 to discuss pricing and all other inquiries.
And we're back with the Freedom Savage podcast.
The following information you are about to hear will describe gruesome acts of violence. Viewer discretion is advised. Gabby's story tragically is not unique, but it is a wake-up call. DV doesn't always begin with violence. It starts with subtle control. Victims are often blamed or misunderstood for not leaving, as we've seen recently.
Exactly.
in the news so far. But the layers of manipulation, fear, trauma bonding, and real danger make escape incredibly difficult, as Tati was saying earlier. Abuse can happen to anyone, regardless of gender, race, class, or sexuality, and we'll be diving into that eventually as well. Every scenario is complex and different. There is a typical pattern of domestic abuse.
The abuser would start off with like love bombing. So at the start, everything feels good and amazing. The abuser might shower the victim with affection and gifts and promises about the future, whatever. And it's all whatever you want to do. Like they'll shower you with all of this love and support. And it could feel like a fairy tale. It could feel like, this is my dream person. But it's really about building a fast emotional dependency. Like that deep bond is what makes it hard for them to walk away later. As we've seen with Gabby and Brian's relationship, it started off very affectionate, very exciting. They jumped into planning their future and the van life and all of that going across the country. Early on, Brian was very supportive and loving about it, which made it easier for Gabby to trust him and emotionally depend on him.
Then we start to see the abusers isolate their victims, slowly pulling them away from the people in their lives, like their family and friends, anyone who might see the red flags. It could be subtle, like they'll guilt trip you for spending time with others. You're always choosing them over me, you always with them, la 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 la. They'll begin to behave really jealous-like, sometimes even more aggressive, and they would even cause drama.
They make you feel like they are the only person that can provide this. They make you feel like where you came from ain't the vibe no more. So in some ways, they reprogram you to see regular life as beneath you, which in turns sometimes make you treat your regular people and your friends in your life like they're beneath you. They either tell you that your friends are jealous, they tell you that your friends don't love you, they tell you that your friends are trying to steal from you, they tell you that your friends only want you for money, and then they tell your friends that you don't want anything to do with them. And so now everybody's at odds. Nobody's having conversations, and now you don't have nobody but him.
And we start to see this with Gabby because she was really close with her friends and family, but Brian gradually made himself the center of her entire world.
It would be control. It could be over little things about where you go, what you wear, who you talk to, like maybe it's checking your phone, picking little fights about who you hang out with. Sometimes it could also be financial, as we've seen with Brian being upset that Gabby was working and making her money and stuff like that. Over time, the victim starts to walk on eggshells just to keep the peace, just to keep their abuser happy and no arguments. Brian controlling behavior came more visible on the road trip. At that point, Gabby is isolated and creating arguments over small things. Gabby started to walk on eggshells, trying to keep peace during these tense moments. We also seen how Brian would pick arguments about her hanging out with Rose. He stole her wallet so she couldn't go out, trying to control who she hangs out with. This back and forth of control is the makeup of a typical abuse in relationships.
Then we start to see more of the emotional abuse build up. The abuser starts to chip away at their victim's confidence, devaluing them. They might belittle them, gaslight them, make them feel like everything is their fault, like they're the crazy ones. They'll say, "You're crazy." They'll try to like guilt trip you and manipulate you, like you made me do this. It's not just a one-time thing. It happens more than once. There's a repetitive pattern of this. Victims in these moments start to eat away at themselves.
Start to really feel like, oh, this is my fault.
And you convince yourself that it was your fault because he's made you believe that it was your fault. Because remember, the indoctrination doesn't start at the first hit. The indoctrination starts before he ever reveals that he has the capacity to hit you in the first place. Look what you made me do. If you would have just done what I asked you to do, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Grooming does not start at the inception of the first infliction of violence. It starts at hello with a lot of these motherfuckers.
They really start to doubt their own reality in a sense. And as the relationship progressed, Brian did this. Brian began tearing down Gabby emotionally, not always in explosive ways, but through consistent put downs, guilt tripping, and emotional manipulation. And we see this in unedited vlog videos and the Moab police body cam footage, where Gabby appears extremely anxious, repeatedly blaming herself and struggling to hold back her tears, while Brian stays calm, like you said, even smiling at the officers, downplaying the entire situation. In the 911 call, witnesses described seeing Brian slap Gabby, but when police arrived, Gabby took the blame immediately, apologizing constantly, a sign of how deeply gaslit she had become at that point. And Brian subtly shifted responsibility onto her, and by minimizing his behavior, being so cool, calm, and collected, he made Gabby question her own instincts. Textbook gaslighting. Making someone them doubt their reality until they feel like everything is their fault. The road trip, which was supposed to be a positive experience, by the way, like it was her dream. She thinking this is something cute. I get to do this with my man. No, it was marred by the increasing tension and control from this motherfucker.
And
So,
eventually, with that, things escalate. Like it can turn scarier. He might not have hit her, they might not have hit them yet, but they'll do things to scare the victim, like break things or block the door, get in your face, threaten to hurt themselves, which we've discussed that Brian has done. Same thing he has done with as far as taking her wallet. Clearly, there had to be some type of altercation of her getting it back. The message at this point is clear that, you're not safe if you go. We seen during the trip that Brian's emotional manipulation extended beyond their physical interactions. Like in letters released during the investigation, Gabby urged Brian to stop crying and express concern over his behavior, indicating a pattern of emotional. Why? Oh, it's because my dumb ass need glasses. I'm thinking it's three eyes. Hold on, let me backtrack. So, in letters released during the investigation, Gabby urged Brian to stop crying and express concern over his behavior, indicating a pattern of emotional volatility. What the
no.
fuck?
I want to say volatility, but I know that's not the.
That's what I was supposed to say. Volatility. Okay, so I'm just gonna say emotional abuse, indicating a pattern of emotional abuse. So this emotional unpredictability combined with his controlling actions left Gabby feeling trapped and uncertain about herself.
All marks of psychological intimidation in these relationships.
Exactly.
Physical violence eventually happens. It's bound to happen. Pushing, hitting, choking, you name it. And it can happen gradually or all at once. And afterwards, they'll downplay it, they'll deny it, say you caused it. The apology may come fast, but after the damage is already done. Even though physical violence wasn't publicly confirmed early on, the progression of their interactions, including reported incidents and the eventual tragic outcome of Gabby, suggests that there was an escalation. Gabby's autopsy showed she was unalived from blunt force trauma to the head and manual strangulation.
And then the overly apologizing, the I love yous, promising that it won't happen again, giving flowers, gifts, and they might blame the stress on like childhood trauma and, oh, it was just this or it was just work or whatever the case may be. The blame goes everywhere but to themselves. And for a moment, that's what gives a victim hope. Like maybe they'll change. Maybe over time it wouldn't, it wouldn't be so bad. It'll get better. I'm not going to stress him out as much. Or in this stage is where I feel like Gabby was when it came to her parents and her friends and stuff like that, because it's like she didn't want to overly discuss what was going on because she felt like it will change eventually. Gabby and Brian appeared to reconcile multiple times after fights with him overly apologizing, promising to change. Like this cycle kept Gabby hopeful that things could get better, which is common in abusive relationships. That's literally what these abusers do.
The honeymoon phase automatically leads to entrapment of the victim, where the victim may feel completely stuck. There's fear. They don't want to leave because kids are involved, or it might be because of financial control or shame or the belief that they're really the problem. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to leave.
Goes hand in hand with the isolation, because at this point they've been isolated. At this point they feel shameful and embarrassed to maybe go back to their friends or family and things like that. So that's also a factor in of, believing that this person will change. It'll be better someday because they don't want to like come to reality of that shame.
I feel like this is the part that people fail to recognize when it comes to DV relationships. These are the mental prisons that you are now put in. Some victims even begin to believe genuinely that they deserve all of it. And we saw it throughout Gabby's story. She blamed herself for everything.
For everything.
Literally everything.
Exactly.
She would make herself the villain. And then when somebody actually does try to leave these situations, this is where it could get really dangerous. Abuse can escalate to stalking or worse. And statistically, the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship is when the victim leaves or tries to leave.
It tries to leave.
So when Gabby tried to assert independence or distance herself, the danger escalated rapidly, ending tragically. According to her ex, Gabby had expressed to him wanting to leave Brian, a sign that she was beginning to see the red flags and consider separating. Tragically, this is the most dangerous time in abusive relationships, when the abuser feels like they're losing control. Violence often intensifies at this stage, and in Gabby's case, that fatal escalation followed shortly after.
I honestly believe that he kind of got a hold of her phone and seeing her talking to her mom and seeing her talking to her ex. And that is when he felt out of control, like, okay, she's trying to leave. And he couldn't handle that.
I definitely feel like he was checking her phone. No way in hell you're doing all of this and not checking her phone too.
Yeah, she's not believing my sorry apologies and sorry excuses or everything like that. She just wants to leave now. She's starting to see the type of person he is, and she's just not falling for it anymore. And that's when he became violent.
Tati, I know that you had felt a little conflicted about this before because we had spoke about it a little bit beforehand when I had finished watching the documentary, but did the cops do anything wrong?
I honestly don't like how they handled the situation when they pulled them over.
This was like a really big debate on social media.
Yes. And I understand them not wanting to arrest them and do all of that, but I honestly would have rathered that. I honestly feel like had Brian been a different race, it would have ended in an arrest. They just automatically believed her, and taking the blame is kind of crazy because I feel like as a cop, you should know how this goes as far as domestic violence. Completely ignored the 911 call of the man saying they witnessed a man slapping this woman. So how are you going to talk to him and say, okay, you're the victim here? Some things just didn't make sense to me. And I honestly feel like because he was a white male, they definitely took it easy.
Yeah, because if he was a black male, he would have already been in that car.
It wouldn't have been no DV hotel for survivors. No, he would have been in the back of that fucking paddy wagon with cuffs on. She's a woman, obviously, but it's like this small woman with bruises all over her. The 911 witnessed him hit her.
911 call being the whole thing. Context matters. Survivors often defend themselves or lash out under long-term emotional abuse. And they often appear emotional, disoriented, or apologetic, while abusers can seem calm and collected. It doesn't mean that the common person is the fucking victim.
Yes. And honestly, I've seen a lot of different body cam footages when it came to men actually telling the truth about, being hit and stuff like that and not even hitting the woman. You can always tell when they're telling the truth. Men will really you can literally tell. They're never calm. They're never cool and collective. Like, oh yeah, they're never laughing. No. When men are really trying to tell the cops the truth when it comes to domestic disputes, which I've seen plenty of, as far as body cam footage, they're always hysterical, which coincides with being a victim. Like they're always hysterical. Like, no, she did this and this happened. And like, because they want to get out the truth, especially because the whole diaspora of men being victims or whatever. So they're trying to plead out their truth. The way Brian was acting is not how a male victim of abuse would act. It's actually how an abuser would act. Yes. If you go on YouTube and stuff like that and you look up these body cam footages of men actually being the victims, their whole demeanor is different than compare it to Brian's, and you'd see what I'm talking about. No, I felt like they should have went back to the police station. It should have been a report. Gabby should have been able to make her claims. He should, even though I kind of feel like in that moment she probably wouldn't have, but it should have been more of a police thing rather than just letting them go.
In Utah, the law requires the officers to cite someone in a DV situation if there's evidence, but they didn't even follow through with that. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't even call it a DV incident. They called it like a mental health crisis.
Victims may not want to press charges and stuff like that. A lot of times police take into their own hands if they see literal evidence, which was there on her body. Okay, I can't really listen to you right now because I have to go for what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing bruises. I have no choice but to take this in. You have to get pictures taken. We have to question you and all of these things. We have to, let's go through this by the books.
They interpreted the situation all wrong.
And I feel like it's because it was very racially motivated. They looked at him as a white man and they just didn't want to take it so far.
First of all, speaking of race, they actually highlighted in the documentary women of color are never really represented as much in the news when it comes to them being in a situation similar to Gabby's, where they go missing or they are unalive. They never get as much coverage. And I remember around the time of her case, everybody was kind of comparing her situation to Shanquella Robinson's situation, who we discussed on season 2. Her mother, a whole month later, had to call out to the news to speak on how she needed answers on her daughter, compared to Gabby, where as soon as the missing persons report was filed and all of that jazz, she got nationwide news coverage. And the family actually, which I give them a lot of respect for, I don't like to tell parents who lost their child how to go about doing any mother thing. But I did appreciate them for being like, wait, This is a problem. Let's highlight that. I really appreciate you for doing that.
Which they didn't have to do at all, but they
At
actually
all.
really did look into it and realize the outrage instead of just dismissing the situation, which they had every right to. They're worried about their daughter, but instead of dismissing it, they actually looked into it. They actually did research and was like, oh yeah, this is actually real and this is actually a problem. Goes to show me the type of people they were.
Why do you think that certain missing persons cases gets massive media attention while others, especially involving women of color or LGBTQ plus individuals, go ignored? I feel like it's because their pain and suffering is never taken seriously. We discussed this before on the podcast, and we will revisit that whole topic of women of color's pain not being taken seriously on a future episode. That's a whole other topic. What do you feel like it is?
It basically is that because when it comes to white women, it's taken times 10. It's like, oh my gosh, this woman, the outrage is more loud when it comes to white women. When it comes to women of color, it's not there. It's just racism. It's hate.
Do you feel like that's also what kind of caused you to not really engage with Gabby's case?
So when it was first happening, I honestly did not look into it at all. To be honest, I did not care. Because at the time, there was a fellow Black woman who was unalive. Questions needed to be resolved. And I felt like had she been a white girl, arrests would have been made, investigations would have been had, and the outcome would have been completely different. I honestly was not worried about Gabby Petito. When I saw it all over social media and all over the news, I was like, I'm not going to worry about that because they're going to find her. I'm worried about Shanquilla Robinson. I literally was like, they're going to find her. Maybe she'll be unalived or not, but they're going to find her. They're fine. I'm worried about this right here, which still to this day has not been solved.
Fucking that. If I'm not mistaken, I think they dropped her case.
They said it's nothing that they can do, but I feel like it was so much that they could have went on that they didn't. They didn't care to get into.
Men can be victims as well. I feel like it's often overlooked. People don't think that a man could be SA'd or abused by a woman, and they're often stigmatized. They're seen as weak, like they have no real value, and it causes a lot of men to not speak up on situations like this because those who do, they see all of the ridicule and stuff that comes from it. Law and Order has broken down several domestic violence cases. However, I think it was season 22, episode 15, they had broke down a situation where a man was being abused by his wife and SA'd by his wife.
Basically, in this episode, there was a married couple. To be honest, in the beginning of the episode, it was more so of them looking at him as the abuser because the wife portrayed it that way. She kind of manipulated the police and basically society because our automatic thought process is, the man is the abuser. The detectives kind of had to look into it more. It was an incident mid-episode where she lied to the police and claimed that he threatened her with a knife to unalive her if she left him. When they interviewed both of them in separate rooms, he basically was just like, whatever she said, I did. He don't know what she said, but he's just taking the blame for it. Basically, as men, a lot of times they don't really like to come forward because it could be embarrassing or they could be mocked because it's like, okay, you're a man, how did you let this happen?
Especially if they're bigger than the female situation.
Mm-hmm.
If they appear to be more physically fit, they have more of a physical advantage, people automatically assume, okay, this woman would have had no power over you. But then we look at that season 16 episode of SVU where Parisi's cousin, he was sexually assaulted by his parole officer. Her being his parole officer automatically gave her dominion over him. She forced him to have sex with her gunpoint, and then they was like, oh, but he got hard. That is a chemical response that has nothing to do with whether or not you wanted it.
Which also happens with women when it comes to
climax during the
you feel like your body went against you. You feel all of these things, and it's like the same thing goes for men.
I feel like it's so cliche to give advice on a topic like this because we always hear it. However, I wanted to ask you, how do we approach DV as outsiders and to advise those that are undergoing DV situations? How do we tackle this?
I feel like when it comes to these situations, in the time that when the victim feels very isolated and very stuck and, oh, I don't have anyone, I feel like that right there should be the time where you seek the most help. It doesn't matter if you feel embarrassed, ashamed, or whatever it is. That's what the abusers do. They isolate. They make you feel like nobody loves you. You don't have anybody. You only have me. Once you get to that point of really believing these things, you're at a point in a relationship where this is not safe. This is not good. So at that point, you kind of got to go against yourself for a little bit. You got to go against yourself and feeling like everything is your fault and you don't have anyone and things like that. Go against yourself just for a little while. Even if you don't believe it, try to believe it. You do have people. You do have someone that loves you. You do have someone that you can reach out to, or you do have, there is something that you can do that you think you can't. Because once they got you in that mindset that you don't have anyone and you're so isolated, that's when it gets worse.
I agree with you completely. But how do you understand the signs? How do you know whether or not you're in one?
When you start to see a pattern, he done apologize and do the same thing over and over again, like 10 times. Like when you start to see it, because there's always a time where they start to see it. It's always a time where it clicks. It's like, oh, I don't know when. It could be different times for everyone. But I feel like at that moment, you should kind of start being strategic about what to do.
I empathize with those that kind of like fall into it without even knowing, because it is something that subtly builds.
Yeah, it's literally, it's so sudden, and victims often don't realize it until they're deep in. Maybe there's kids involved. Maybe they're across the country from their parents. Like, they used to live in New York. Now they live in fucking Nevada or something. It's like, it clicks when you feel like you can't go back now.
I think the hardest part and the confusing part is wrestling with that part of yourself that's saying something's wrong, and then wrestling with that other part of yourself that's like, it's not that bad.
Or it will change. It won't be like that next time and stuff like that.
Now, not only is there an assault happening to you externally, but internally, there's also like this fight going on.
I feel like you should just fight your own mind. And like, you feel like, oh, I don't have my mom. I don't have my mom. Reach out. Or maybe it's not your mom. It's your aunt or your dad or anybody. Still reach out, because 9 times out of 10, they will help. They will try their best to make sure you can make it out safely and alive. And it kind of goes to as far as if you yourself witness somebody who, and it doesn't always have to be abuse. Maybe you have a loved one or a friend or a daughter or whatever the case may be. Maybe they move to a different state with their significant other. Maybe they do seem a little more isolated. They don't reach out that much anymore. I feel like you should do the reaching out. Oh, I'm thinking about coming over there, or checking in more and more and more. They may not tell you everything, but it will keep that in the back of their mind. Yeah, I may not have anyone, but let me try to contact this person who, contacts me every other day.
And speaking of having that person, how do you feel about people trying to intervene in DV situations, whether that be like strangers or friends? Because some may even say that it never works out for them.
A lot of times that do happen, so that often conflicts people in intervening. But I feel like that's as far as like in the moment, in the now. A couple fighting and going crazy and you trying to get in the middle of it. I feel like you can kind of prevent that if you intervene early on. If you intervene early on to where, you're always contacting this person and they feel like they can reach out to you. You can make up strategic ways to do whatever it is to get them out. It's kind of also important, if they do have that one person that always reaches out, for that person to always make it known that they're there. It doesn't have to be so like, oh yeah, I'm like arguing with the abuser, but always make your presence known. Oh, I'm just stopping by. And they know like, okay, this person's always here. This person will not leave. Like, sometimes it doesn't work, because we can also talk about another documentary as well, where she actually did have friends and stuff that did care. They noticed she was missing and stuff like that. And unfortunately, he still did what he did.
I think it's a very complex situation, especially when like others try to intervene.
That's why it's so hard to judge. You can't judge. Like I just said the example, she had friends, family, very active, and it still happened to her. So it's like,
at the same time, the only person that could really take you up out of that situation is you.
Is yourself. Exactly. So this person really, they basically risked their lives in trying to help you. You have to stay away from that person.
Which is hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's a mental thing. But I just feel like when it comes to yourself and wanting to live for yourself, or if you have kids or whatever the case, it may be hard, but force yourself. It's like, it's either you're going to be here or you're going to be unalived. Like, it's just that cookie cutter, to be honest. And what do you choose? Yeah. Leave now, heal later. You're going to hurt. It's going to hurt. You're going to feel all the feels. I'd rather you feel all the feels alive.
I think you said it there. Leave first, heal later. Really prioritize leaving the abusive situation first and focus on healing afterwards. DV is just so complicated. It's so hard to tackle because it's one of those situations where it requires so much nuance. If I was to revisit this topic again, what I would really love is to talk to like DV survivors and get their thoughts on this stuff. Those who feel like they mentally can and are comfortable with doing so. I'm really glad that we were able to do this. It was really fun to be able to break down yet another case. I am really glad that we are back in the saddle. We are going to be flipping tables with the future topics that we got in store. I hope that you guys really liked this episode and was able to take from it. I love you guys, and definitely stay tuned for so much more. Bye, y'all.
I was muted. Bye, y'all.
Yeah.
There's a difference between hearing and listening. You get it? Our passion, our spirit, our devotion. We're making magic. Come on and talk when you